registered for the event. We'll be getting a link with the recording later next week or early next week. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on when you're joining us. Today we would be we are hosting the Pathway to Extraordinary, how professionals from emerging markets break into the EB-1A category. And we are having a guest speaker from TSC Global actually take us through this webinar. Before starting, I would like to talk a little bit about Arsenal Consulting. I know a couple of you probably know what Arsenal Consulting is or who Arsenal Consulting, what we actually do. But for people that do not know, I will introduce myself. My name is Tomilola Abiodun. I'm also known as Anu, and I'm the founder of Arsenal Consulting. Arsenal Consulting is actually 6.5 years old, and it's a graduate school admissions and career coaching company focused on international students and other young professionals break into careers that they desire and actually launch their global careers through graduate school or just direct through accelerating their own career. I started Arsenal Consulting out of the challenges that I faced as an international student 8 years ago when I moved to the US for my MBA. And I strongly believe in the power of storytelling, ensuring that people do not make the same mistakes that I have made and ensuring that people have the leg up, because I strongly believe that not everybody has second chances and third chances and fourth chances. Sometimes you only get that one chance and that one opportunity. So how do we ensure that we make the best of those opportunities when we have it? That's where Arsenal Consulting comes in, to make sure that you are very well prepared for your next acceleration opportunity that might come your way. Now, today, we are taking things a little different. So we're not talking about graduate school admissions or career services or anything like that. We are talking more about the EB-1A category and how you can optimize yourself for success. Please note that you can ask questions at any time. I believe almost everybody or most people should have access to the chat. If you do not have access to the chat and you cannot type your questions, we would be leaving some minutes before the end of the session to actually take questions. So then you would raise your hands and then I will call on you and then you can ask your questions. If you also are not able to ask questions directly here, you can send an email. I'll be putting our email address in the chat. You must have also gotten an email from me with the link to this particular webinar. So you can also reply to that email. I will be in the chat. You can ask any questions, even if it's not really related to the EB-1A category. If I'm not able to answer the question, I will direct you to schedule a meeting and then we can discuss that at a later time. So that being said, I'll be handing it over to Fisayo to take us through the webinar.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I'll share my screen right now. Hey, do you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Fisayo. You can find me online as Fisayo Gracie Abbey. I'm the founder of TAC Impact Global, an educational institution that supports extraordinary talent to secure permanent residency in the United States. Today, we're going to be talking about building your pathway to extraordinary, how you would build your career for the EB-1A green card category.
What's this one?
Please try to mute your mic so there are no distractions. All right. So beyond the visa, what is the extraordinary ability mandate? It's basically living your life or your career in a way that's impactful and is distinct. Through these slides or this presentation, I'm going to be walking you through understanding the purpose of the EB-1A and why your profile is the foundation for permanent residency, in this case, in the United States. Now, what is the extraordinary ability visa? It's a visa category, a first preference visa category that is designed for people who can demonstrate that they have extraordinary ability in their field. So whether they're in the sciences, in the arts, in business, in education, in athletics, as far as they can demonstrate that they are leading, that they have risen to the top of their field, then they have a good chance at getting this visa. But I keep saying the word extraordinary, and it might sound a little vague because is this supposed to be magical, or what kind of things do you need to show that you're extraordinary? Thankfully, the USCIS has helped us, with 10 distinct criteria to establish you as a person of extraordinary ability. And we'll be touching on that, as we go further in this presentation. Now, the first mistake for many people who want to go on this path but don't know how to is waiting to be extraordinary. The truth is, the EB-1A is a documentation challenge. And here's how to think about it. On social media, there's been so many challenges, right? You see the Don't Rush challenge. I know that one happened in maybe during the pandemic or something in 2021. There's a mannequin challenge where they will pause for like a few seconds, and then they're supposed to like stand straight like a mannequin. There is the Hallelujah challenge, where people like sing praises. There are different kinds of challenges that people do, and it's prominent on social media and online. Now look at the EB-1A as a documentation challenge. They're literally telling you to bring forth your reasons, bring forth the evidence of the work that you have done. So it's you looking at it and saying, okay, now this is a documentation challenge. I have to bring my documentation. And we'll go into the different types of documentation evidences that you can bring forward, as we go further into this. But the EB-1A is often greatly misunderstood, and it's not about becoming the best in the world, but showing that you have documents, to prove your extraordinary ability. All right, now, so there are three major pillars of a petition-ready profile. A petition-ready profile should have strategic evidence generation, narratives, positioning, and storytelling, along with documentation and accountability. And here's what I mean by that. If you are building up your profile from the scratch, or depending on wherever you are on the spectrum, I believe all of us are extraordinary, albeit on different lines of the spectrum. So imagine a line like this, and then there's extraordinary here, and then you're here. It doesn't mean you're not extraordinary. It just means that there are some things and there are some bars you have to meet in order to get there, right? And then putting your petition together, you need to talk about your story. There is a lot of positioning that has to be done in order to tell your story in a way that the USCIS deems fit. And of course, documentation and accountability will go further into that as we progress. But there's something that I want us to do, and thankfully you're early on, so this is what you get for joining early into this presentation. There's an opportunity for two people to win one-on-one consultation sessions with us, where we'll dive deep into your profile and recommend next steps. So what you want to do is to take a picture of your favorite slide, during this presentation, or your biggest takeaway, right? Whatever you've learned from this, share it on your LinkedIn or on your Instagram. If you're sharing on LinkedIn, you mention Tag Impact Global. And if you're sharing on your Instagram story, you tag Green Card and Gracie Abby. Okay, so don't miss this. This is your prep for joining in early. You get a chance to win something. All right, so I talked about the criteria for demonstrating extraordinary ability, and there's 10 of them. For the EB-1, you need to meet at least 3 out of these 10. Now, it doesn't mean you should meet only 3. I highly recommend that you meet more than that, but the baseline is having to meet 3 of them. And we'll go over this quickly, right? The first one is evidence of receipt of lesser nationally or internationally recognized prizes or awards of excellence. Now, the USCIS wants to see that in the course of your career, in the course of your journey, whether as an entrepreneur, as a professional in corporate, you have received some major awards that you can say identify you as prominent in your field. You have gotten some type of recognition that only the people who are leading in your field. Please don't forget to mute your mics. You have gotten some form of recognition that shows that you are prominent in your field, right? Your work on a national scale or on an international scale has been recognized. Now, don't forget, I said this is a documentation challenge. So you're not just coming to tell us that, oh, you won this award, this national award. You're also showing us the award. You are showing us the criteria to which you were selected for the award. You're showing us what the nomination pool was like and what the percentage of the people who were chosen for the award versus the people who could possibly have been chosen for that award was, right? So see it as, like I said, a documentation challenge. Now, the second one is membership in associations requiring outstanding achievements of their members. They are not looking to see that you're a member of an association that you just joined by the click of a button, but they want to see that your association or your organization requires some form of significant accomplishments from you in order to be a member. So is this by writing some type of exams and scaling through the ranks? Is this by being invited because of your years of experience? Is this because you were inducted because of some things that you have contributed to your field? Things like that. So they want to see that you are a member of some type of reputable association that aligns with your field, generally or on an industry level. Now, the third criteria is publish material about you in professional or major media. Now, they want to see that there is relevant media coverage about you or about your work in major media. Major media can be mainstream media. It can also be media that is specifically targeted to your industry. So for example, if you're in the healthcare industry, you need to think about it like, okay, now that I'm in healthcare, where are the websites, the journals, the blogs, the channels that people in my field typically go to, either for knowledge, either for news, either for updates, either to be informed? Where are those media platforms? And then, is my work being showcased on those platforms, or is there the possibility of my work being showcased on those platforms, right? So you need to look at it like your own work, but it is being showcased by another party. Now, the fourth criteria is participation as a judge of others, either as an individual or on a panel. And this criteria basically looks at how you have served either as a reviewer or a judge of people, in your field. And in order for you to judge people's work, it means that you have some level of expertise, right? So they want to see that shining forth in the way you talk about this criteria. They want to see that you were invited to be a judge because of XYZ input that you've had in your industry. They want to see the other people also, if it was a panel, who were also invited or who were also on that panel with you. If you were the sole judge, they want to know the reason why you were selected for that. And the ways that you build your profile for that is, first of all, demonstrating your own expertise. And that's why you need to be vocal on the different channels or the different platforms that your industry leaders or peers in your industry usually go to. And this is not the time, if you're looking to build your EB-1A profile, this is not the time that you are silent, either on your social media, on your work platforms, in conferences, in meetings where people of your expertise typically go to. All right. And this. Okay. So the fifth one is original scientific, scholarly, artistic, athletic, or business-related contributions of major significance to your field. The USCIS wants to see that you have contributed in a way that is significant to the development or the progress of your field. Your contribution can be anything from a thought leadership material to an organization, a product, a service, a non-profit, a charity, different things, right? As far as you can show that your work has been recognized as having major impact in your field, and that it is originally your work, it is your brainchild, it is output from you, then you can place that evidence or that criteria forward to demonstrate your extraordinary ability. Okay, so the sixth one is evidence of your authorship of scholarly articles in professional journals or major media. Now, you want to think about this as you can only author something that has been written, right? So if these are opinion papers, if these are journals, if this is a book that you have written, has it been published in a major journal? Has it been published on a major media, either mainstream or a media platform that is specifically targeted towards your field? So if you're in academia, think about high impact journals, if you are an entrepreneur, look at business platforms where they talk about all those types of entrepreneurial materials. For the seventh criteria is evidence that your work has been displayed at artistic exhibitions or showcases. Now, not everyone can demonstrate extraordinary ability using this criteria, typically because of the kind of work that we do, right? So for everything, and that's why there are 10 criteria, you cannot try to hit all 10 at once because your career may not be that diverse or broad. So especially for creatives or artists, right, who have this type of exhibitions where they can show their work has been displayed, exhibited. So you want to ask yourself that question: has my work been displayed at any form of exhibition or showcase? How can I start putting my work forward in order to attract those kinds of opportunities, or in order to be seen as someone who can take those opportunities when approached? Or if I'm pitching to places where there are these places or organizations that lead these types of exhibitions, how broad, how extensive is my work, how solid is my work in order to grant me or earn me a seat at the table for an exhibition or a showcase. All right, the eighth criteria is you performing a leading or critical role in a distinguished organization. Now think about this. This is one of the easiest criteria for people in corporate, professionals in corporate to satisfy, because you've worked, pretty much all your life. And the onus would be on you to establish the work that you did as being critical to the development of the organization, or to the company hitting their bottom line or their own set goals. Then you also have to establish that the organization is reputable. It's not a small company, right? It's leading in the industry, that's contributed XYZ, into the field. Now you need to look at what key positions you have held, and then establishing them as very leading in order to show that you have extraordinary ability. Now, the ninth criteria is a high salary or remuneration compared to others in your field. Now, this is for people who, of course, earn a high salary, either in corporate or as an entrepreneur, for people who have raised some form of significant funding, and that is higher compared to what people in their field typically have, can use that as a benchmark, right? So you need to ask yourself, you earn significantly more than your peers. What is the possibility or the chance of getting a higher paying job or a role that you can use to demonstrate this extraordinary ability? So these are things that you should think about. So look at them, the criteria, as questions that you ask yourself in order to get to the groundwork. Now, the final one is evidence of your commercial success in the performing act. So look at people who are in theater, people who release movies, right? Look at the numbers that they garner. So imagine if you release a course or a product and it sells, it gets sold out in a day or two, and then in terms of comparison, you can say that this is high compared to what you have achieved before or what other people in your field typically achieve. Now, this is a summary of the 10 criteria, and you are only required to have 3 or at least 3 of this. Now, as I said all of this, the question you should start to ask yourself is, which ones do I meet right now? Which ones can I start targeting? How can I start building my profile in order to hit more of this and to have strong documentation that aligns with what the USCIS is looking out for? Now, let's go in depth into strategic career building for the EB-1A. And the goal is how to prepare intentionally. If you're on this call, you're taking the next best step forward, right? Because you are curious and you want to know what this entails. And this shows that you have the tenacity, you have the curiosity to put in the work and actually do it. So it's very possible for a lot of people. However, people randomize things rather than being strategic in how they build their careers. There's a difference between just hoping that things align and you being strategic to ensure that every work that you're putting in tells a story, aligns to your field of extraordinary ability, and makes your profile strong enough to hit the EB-1A bar. Now, if you're randomly building, you're just saying yes to different opportunities as they appear without considering which ones align with your field of extraordinary ability, which ones will take you more time without a significant ROI. But if you're strategically building, you can identify what exactly the USCIS is looking out for based on this criteria that I just mentioned, the ones you have a significant gap in and the ones that you should start building on, right? Random building is just speaking at events where only when invited, whereas strategic building is intentionally positioning your expertise to be found for speaking, judging, or media features. And the way you do this is by putting your work forward. Nobody will know how brilliant you are, how intelligent, or how deep your work is, or how good your work is without you actually putting yourself forward in a place that you can be found, right? So intentionally positioning yourself to be found, or even when you are pitching to people, to have a profile that is solid enough to be looked up on or to be vetted when you are being selected for those opportunities. So those are things that you need to look out for. Now, you lead projects because it's part of your job, not because it's evidence. For someone who has EB-1A in mind, is leading projects, is documenting it, is showing their impact with metrics, is getting thumbs up from people in management, right? So that when it's time to have recommendation letters, it's not a difficult thing. So you're building evidence proactively and not reactively. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, this is a framework that I like people to think about. So, and you use the word elevate, right? So elevate, E is establishing credibility. You through the different things that you do in your work, right? Regardless of whatever your career path is, whatever roles you're taking on, project, leadership examples, you're establishing credibility with your work by doing excellent work, right? That's how you establish credibility, by doing excellent work, by having a good rapport with people, by handling your relationship well, and then people can see, okay, this person is credible in the way they lead. Now then you leverage visibility, and these days visibility, it means different things to different people, but through media platforms, through conferences that align with your field, your industry, your area of expertise, through publication, you leverage that as a stepping stone to build your profile. Evidence, everything. Like I said, it's a documentation challenge, right? So having a documentation mindset in your head, so for everything that you are doing and you're getting, you're making sure that you are documenting them, right? Now, validating your expertise, either through judging, membership opportunities, getting awards, amplifying your recognition. like I said, getting testimonials, getting thumbs up from people that you have worked with, having those written down properly or documented helps a great deal. Now, tying it all together is the final strand in this Elevate model, and that loops everything together because that's where you have your petition that is solid. It has evidence, it has a story that shows you are a person of extraordinary ability and it is well positioned, right? So think about this and have this in mind, like, how am I elevating my profile? What are the things that I'm doing? Where is the gap that I currently find in my field right now? How am I trying to hit it? What are the opportunities there? And how can I leverage visibility in a way that works for me? Now, there is the EB-1A roadmap, and this is from builder to petitioner. This is not the case for everyone. Not everyone requires 24 months in order to build their profile. Some people require less, some people even require more. But this is just an example of someone with a 24-month timeline, right? This is 2 years. They are taking time to strategically assess their profile, get on one-on-one consultations, building strategies, identifying their gaps, and setting measurable evidence targets, right? And then for the next couple of months, they're actively generating evidence, actively documenting whatever evidence it is, looking out for opportunities in the field that they can focus on to establish them as people that are thought leaders in their field, showing narrative positioning, getting expert letters, framing the achievements into compelling EB-1 arguments, and then, finally gearing up into submission and petition writing. We introduced a program called the Build Up Track. And this program is designed to proactively generate, position, and document your achievements in a way that is accountable. So you're not just going ahead to build this profile by yourself without having the right guidance, without knowing whether what you are building or the things that you are getting actually aligns with what the USCIS is looking for. But you have an accountability structure where you have a month-on-month blueprint for what you should be doing depending on the track you choose. So there's the 6-month track, the 12 months, the 18 months, and the 24-month track, where you find which one actually works for you, and then you commit to that program. The essence of that program is having you, getting you to a point where you have the right set of evidence that is solid enough to put in an EB-1 application, right? So for the 6-month track, it's for people who they have a strong profile already, and they just need hyper-focused guidance to fill in either 1 or 2 criteria gaps that they currently have. Or perhaps they already have maybe 5 criteria, and then they just need, they have 5 criteria, they have maybe 1 or 2 evidence per criteria, and they need more things to solidify what they currently have. And in 6 months, they think, okay, this should be helpful. This should be enough time for me to actually put in the work to build my profile up. For the 12-month track, which is a year, so it's designed for mid-career professionals who need a structured plan to generate more pieces of evidence and strengthen their narrative for filing. So typically giving yourself a 1-year timeline. And the thing about the EB-1 is you don't want to submit your application or your petition just when you have gathered all your evidence together. So imagine if you are trying to submit your petition in December of 2025, and in this same December, you had like 3 awards gotten, you have secured fellowship in 2 different memberships, you got invited to like a judging opportunity, you changed your role in that time, you contributed, maybe you published a book in that same December. It looks sketchy. It looks fishy. Why is everything happening in 1 month? And in that same month, you are trying to file your EB-1. It doesn't look organic. And so that's why from now, depending on where you see a gap, you are trying to determine which track works for me so that when I'm submitting my application, it doesn't look fake. It doesn't look inorganic. It looks like things that have happened giving yourself a course of time, right? So the 18-month track is best for those with good experience, but significant documentation gaps, right? And they're trying to focus on generating evidence for different criteria and also building a global presence. And then the 24-month track, which is the longest track that we currently offer, it's for early career or high achievers who are starting from scratch, right? Right now, they don't think they meet one. They don't think they have solid evidence for at least one of the criteria. So this is the best track for them right now in order to put them on a good pathway to submit their petition in the next 2 years. As an education institution, we offer EB-1 services in different ways. Beyond the build-up track for people who are trying to build their profile, we also offer full petition writing services. And this is for busy professionals or entrepreneurs who don't have the time to sit down and write their petition by themselves. Now, this is for people who already meet the criteria, not people who are building their profiles up, right? People who already meet the criteria, they have the evidence, and they're ready to submit. However, they need help doing the narrative, the storytelling, the positioning, writing well, right? This is where our service comes in. The second service offering is petition review, and this is where someone who has written their petition, but they need a third eye to look over it to ensure that their evidence is optimally positioned, their write-up is strategic enough, it establishes them as a top authority in their field, and they're trying to mitigate any form of RFE or noise, right? So a petition review helps them either in a completion, as a completion service or as a comments review for them to look through what needs to be changed and edited. Now, the third is our ACE course, and that's our pilot program, a 7-week self-petition accountability group that people who are also ready, right? So many of these are for people who are also ready, that are ready to submit their petitions, right? So in 7 weeks, they come together, they have weekly focuses, they have different things that they do every week. They get on strategy calls with the team, have weekly support sessions, and they have templates that helps them finalize their petition with expert guidance. Our next cohort starts January 18. We're currently running a cohort that will end later in December, and then the next one will kick off in January. So there's a link to sign up here that you can use. My advice for you, stop waiting. Stop waiting, start building. The earlier you start, the better for you, the more organic your profile looks. The better it is to establish that you have sustained your impact, you have sustained your extraordinary ability, and it's not just like in a short period of time. So regardless of whether you're seeing permanent residency as a 2026 goal, a 2027 goal, a 2028 goal, whatever time that you're looking to hit that goal, it's best that you start building now. And the boot program, it offers you a guaranteed path from high potential talent, to EB-1A approval, right? So seeing how you can build your profile up. We'll be starting in January, and there'll be a link that will be shared in the chat for you to sign up if this is something that interests you. In order for you to get like a personalized roadmap, you have expert guidance, structured accountability, and then you have a strategy that helps you stay on track. Now, I'm going to open the floor for question and answers. We have about 20 minutes to get through questions. So anything you have to ask about the EB-1 process, the criteria, the build-up track, anything that I touched on in the course of this presentation, I'm happy to hear your question, everyone. Thank you.
So we have a question from somebody, Vicky, I believe. The question is regarding criteria 2. Does PMP or PMI count?
Okay, so for the PMP, are you just an ordinary member? or have you risen through the ranks to becoming a fellow of the PMP? And the reason I say this is because, yes, the project management certification is quite a tough one to get. However, many people are getting it now. And so if you're trying to say that you are rising to the top of your field, then you should be a step higher than the regular people is, right? So you need to look at it like, okay, now that almost everyone has this, it doesn't really establish that I am a leader in my field or I'm at the top of my field just because I have the PMP or the PMI. So look at what the next level is in that membership. Is there a fellow opportunity? Is there an opportunity for you to organize events or to lecture people that are doing the PMP? Can you show some form of recommendation letters from people in the association or in the membership to show that you have you play a critical role or that you have been impactful in leading or in teaching other people? So that's how to distinguish yourself rather than just saying, oh, you have the PMP or the PMI, because many people already have it. Yes, we offer RFP response service. I just saw that from Nana.
If so, there are other questions
Oh,
that
there
have been
are questions.
asked.
Okay,
Yes.
let me.
So, how would you request a recommendation without letting the recommender know your plans? I responded to that. If your recommender can't know what your plans are, the person shouldn't be your recommender. There is really no way, because the content of your recommendation is going to speak to your extraordinary ability and how you would be great for the United States. So, if you're going to be hush-hush about it, then that person shouldn't even be in your list of people that would recommend you for starters. Then the other question is there a minimum number of recommendation letters that we should submit for the EB-1 petition?
So there is no minimum number, but I typically advise my clients to get between 6 to 10 recommendation letters, right? And that's where you split it across some of the different criteria. You don't necessarily have to have a recommendation letter for each criteria, but importantly, many of the criteria that you don't have evidence, tangible evidence for. So for example, the criteria on you leading a critical role in a distinguished organization. Many companies have privacy policies that cover the work that they do. You might build some dashboards, you might do some presentations, create a product, have a website that is live, but you cannot claim ownership of that work, or you cannot show your private work your work documents or your dashboard in a USCIS petition just because your company may not allow that. So for that type of criteria, you definitely need solid recommendation letters from the people that you have worked with across the different organizations. So for example, you've worked at 3 different organizations, you need at least 1 recommendation letter from each of those organizations, because that is the strong evidence that you have to prove the work that you have done, except if, like, for the organization that you worked with, there are things online, maybe they developed a product and there's wording online to say that, oh, this was your actual work, which in reality doesn't really happen, because many times we work in teams and then they don't put the names of the people who actually develop products or build things, on company's website. But if you have that, yes, you can put that. But importantly, you have the recommendation letter. So having between 6 to 10 helps you, to split your recommendation across the different criteria and to help you solidify the evidence that you have.
All right, I just also want to add to that. So when it comes to your recommendation, because this is extraordinary ability, the person that should be recommending you cannot just be a random person that doesn't have any credibility or is not also an extraordinary person in their own right. So you can't just use like a colleague who is not a leader somewhere, or the person doesn't even have evidences of things that they have actually done, because recommendation is very qualitative. So it is your word, right? So if there's no way to validate that the person that's actually recommending you is somebody who is really very solid, then the recommendation letter would not carry as much weight as somebody who is at the top of their field actually recommending you. For example, if the part of the work that you have done maybe maybe your professor in school, you worked with your professor and you guys came up with something, maybe you had a patent or something like that, your professor providing that recommendation is really very valid because your professor's extraordinary ability is actually validated. Person is a professor from an extraordinary institution, and that's going to be very different from your peer at work, back home or anywhere, who does not have any certifications. The person doesn't have any credibility, just giving you a recommendation. So you also have to be careful about that. And Fisayo, Catherine is asking, how does the 12-month and 18-month track work? I guess she wants to know what the difference between the 12 and the 18-month track. Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. So the first thing is, before we determine who gets into one track, what track, we have a conversation to understand where the gaps are in the criteria that you are trying to fill. So 12 months a year, 18 months a year, and 6 months. The major difference is, for whoever is trying to enter those tracks, is the amount of time that is required to build up their profile, right? So it just depends on where you are at right now, how many criteria you currently have, what evidence you have for each criteria, and how much time that you think you need. So not just the time you think you need, the time that's required for you to actually have substantial evidence to put in place, right? So to answer your question directly, the time difference is the first visible difference between the two tracks, but the amount of evidence that you have, your criteria as an individual, will also determine which of the tracks you should enter.
Okay. Kasim is asking, can an award in one's university count?
Yes, an award in your university counts, but it depends on the type of award. So is this an award, is this a scholarship award that was given to almost everybody in your program or your class? Is this a commencement speaker award? Is this a recognition that only you out of the number of students got? Is this something? So you need to establish the rarity of that award, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, or on a percentage basis, what is the percentage of people that got the award compared to the people who did not get the award, right? So that question is very generic because I don't know what type of award it is, but if it's an award that it's maybe a top 1%, top 5%, top 10%, absolutely, you can use that award, especially since you can demonstrate that it's on a national level. So there are so many people who got into your school program, right? And there are people from different continents, different from people of different nationals, right? You can say what the nomination pool is like, and then talk about what was used to determine you as a recipient of that award, right? So talk about the criteria that was used to select you as a recipient of that award, talk about the nomination pool, and then get statistics on the nomination pool and the reason why you were selected. So yes, you can use an award from your institution or your school. However, you need to demonstrate how rare that award was or is.
All right, thank you. Then just to add to that, based off of the way things have been, at least will I say examples, based off of RFEs people have gotten in the past couple of months, traditional scholarships that most people get do not fall under acceptable awards. So if you're thinking of adding like your traditional scholarship or your graduate assistantship, that doesn't count, because that is not as extraordinary and that is not as rare as a huge award. Then Martins is saying, regarding the recommendation letter, must it be on the company letterhead? Some company policies don't support this. Will it be accepted by USCIS if it's not on a letterhead? So I can answer that. The fact is, a letterhead proves more legitimacy. And because you are writing something and you're trying to convince your USCIS, the more legitimate your application looks, the better it is for you. So yes, they are not insisting it should be on a letterhead, but the better it is for you for it to be on a letterhead. And it's better for you that your company is one that can be verified online. They have like a LinkedIn page, they're a company that we can see that, oh, this is actually a company. Like it's not something that is made up, or somebody that came up with something hush hush and just made it up for the purpose of USCIS, so for the purpose of the EB-1 track. I know that some of your company policies do not support it, but once you get into the build-up track, or you have more one-on-one conversations with FISAIO, you are able to figure out how you can go around that, or what other options you might have if you work for an organization that they're not able to give you recommendation on the letterhead. And then when it comes to also your recommendation letter, don't assume that, oh, your recommendation letter is just going to be written by it will be written by your recommender, but you are going to guide them. It's going to be properly guided. And those are part of the things that you would get out of the build-up track, and also working with TAC Global, because whatever you write in your recommendation letter will be referenced in your petition. So it's also not something that is random that you can just get haphazardly. It's something that has to be properly thought through before you can actually submit it as part of your entire petition. Then Catherine is asking if she can book a consultation. I will include the link, the email address, so that you can email FISAIO directly. And I think the email address actually is already on the screen, info@tacimpactglobal.com. Then Temitope is asking, is there an age limit for the EB-1? FISAIO, I would leave you to answer that.
Is that it? No, there is no age limit. I've seen 24-year-olds apply and get selected. I've seen people in their late 40s apply and get selected. So there's no age limit.
Okay. Yes, in addition to that, yes, there is no age limit. However, your petition and whatever you're writing, you must be able to state what you would continuously do in the United States. And you need to show that you are going to continuously add value. So I know that there's no age limit, but if like your age and what you're currently doing doesn't provide you a lot of opportunities to add value to the United States, then that is questionable, right? So you also have to put that, have that at the back of your mind. Then Oluwaseun, what about a Senate prize for the best graduating students in a faculty award? I would say that also depends. If you want to learn more about that, though, that will be covered in the build-up track or any of the services that FISAIO will be offering. So Bura is asking, how long should I wait before strengthening my profile and submitting my application? FISAIO, do you have an answer for that?
Why are you trying to wait? Strengthening your profile is not something you do at once. It's progressive. It's like, imagine how like you build an agile software, right? You are doing things you're building upon what you currently have. So you don't have to wait between when you have the last form of evidence in quotes that makes your application strong to when you submit, because in reality, you are not getting everything at once.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, Wura, I hope you get that. So I guess what you're trying to say is, like, I understand what you're trying to say, Wura, but that's the entire idea behind the build-up track. That's why you have 6 months, 18 months, 12 months, 24 months, depending on where you are at from your profile perspective. And FISAIO actually already shared it earlier that, yeah, it's going to look really weird if you get all of your requirements, everything is gotten in a month. That doesn't really show that you have actually displayed extraordinary abilities over a period of time. That's why, depending on where you are, after a proper assessment, you can really tell, oh, am I going to be in the 6-month track or the 24-month track? And if you're in the 24-month track, that means you have been working on your profile and your abilities for the last 24 months. As at the end of the 24th month, when you actually have the last requirement, then that should be good enough for you to submit. Hasim is asking, is being an assistant professor a leading role or a critical role? I can answer that. That depends on what you have actually done as an assistant professor. At the end of the day, it is what you have done. Some people have worked in organizations where they have big titles, but they don't have any impact and nothing to show for it. So what have you done? What impact have you had? Right? What extraordinary thing have you done? What can people say about you? Like, what research have you been able to do? What groundbreaking research have you been able to do? How has this impacted the lives of others, right? How critical is your work to the organization or the university actually surviving and continuing operations? So it's not just about the title of your role, it's about the impact and the work that you have actually done. And all of this would be assessed in the Build Up Track program. Jones is asking, if I was to ask for one what are the things I can request for the recommender? That will be discussed in the build-up track or in any of the service offerings that you have with Fisayo. You could go through, that's part of the offer, actually. That's part of the service. Take you through what are the things that you can ask your recommender and the things you should include and how it fits into your entire profile.
Mhm.
Yes, okay, I think Wura, I already answered, the question for Wura. Martins, is it compulsory to publish articles to be better positioned for EB1 if you are specifically in the corporate role and not academia? Fisayo.
No, it is not compulsory. It is not compulsory if you are not in academia, if your role does not require that leaders in your field publish their work, right? So look at it from this perspective. You are trying to show that you have risen to the top of your field. There is a field that looks like a triangle and you are the apex, right? The very top. The people who are also at that top, do they publish their work? Do they have thought leadership materials? Are they on platforms like academia and ResearchGate specifically for your industry, right? If this is not something that people who are leading in your industry typically do, then it's not required for you to actually publish, or get on these academic platforms in order for you to show evidence, right? So you should be looking at things that people in your field usually do, leaders in your field usually do, not generic stuff that you hear many people do for the EB1. So to answer your question directly, no, it's not compulsory.
Okay. So, do we have any questions? Is there anybody who is not able to access the chat and they want to ask a question? You can raise your hand and then we can call on you. We have just about 5 minutes. I have also included the email address in the chat in case you just want to copy and paste it. And then if you want to be part of the build up track, I've also reattached the link again for the build up track. Okay, so Martins, you have recommendation letters. Martins, I'm not sure if you really got or understood anything we've been saying, but that's literally the entire point of like what we've been having in the webinar so far. The track is supposed to help you think through all of the parts of the requirement that aligns with your area. And recommendation letters are a form of evidence, right? Which we will be coaching you on how to get it, on the things you should do, like what you should request from your recommenders, what you should pull out of it, how it aligns with your entire profile. If you have publications from 8 years ago, do I need something more recent before going ahead to submit my petition? Fisaya, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, so publications from 8 years ago, the way you should think about it is for the EB1, they want to see that you have sustained acclaim, both nationally or internationally. So you had some publications 8 years ago, but after 8 years ago up until now, what are the things that have happened in your career journey that is worthy of the EB1? What are the things that you can say that, oh, you have sustained this? So it doesn't necessarily only have to be publications, but the other things that you have done or that has been impactful, that has come out of you, do they also follow a trajectory, or was everything just 8 years ago? If everything was 8 years ago, then there is a problem and you need to actually build more in order for you to apply. But if you can say that, oh, from 8 years ago leading up to now, you have done XYZ, you have built stuff, you have been invited to judge the work of others, you contributed in a particular dimension, then definitely you can use that because that actually shows that you have sustained, acclaim over the years.
Yeah, thank you, Fisayo. Also, in addition to that, yes, man, I've had publications over 8 years ago. Whatever your story is, right? Does it tie with the publications that you've had 8 years ago? Because sometimes people have published things and then they are no longer in that field, which speaks to the continuous acclaim that Fisayo was talking about. So are you still in that field? And then also there are times where, yes, you must have published 8 or 10 years ago, but the things you've published 8 to 10 years ago, is it still relevant now? Are there still people that are citing your work? Are there still people that are making reference to your work? Is it still valid right now? Those are the things that you should consider. If not, then you will need to work on improving or building more evidences that actually support the area that you're trying to focus on. Ibukun, you said you filled the form for both some days ago. Apologies, we'll be getting back to you. We're just trying to work on a few logistics and you'll be hearing back from the team. Dr. Joy, is there a time frame across which you are supposed to accumulate your accomplishment? This is what Fisayo had explained. This is the entire build-up track that she has been talking about regarding your accomplishment and how fishy it's going to look if you are submitting everything within 1 month, and the fact that you need to have sustained acclaim. Right. So there's some people that, based off of the way their career has been in the last 10 years, they actually already have all of these evidences working for them. It's just them putting it together. But for a lot of people, they haven't had that opportunity or they haven't documented it as much. So depending on where you are, you need between a 6-month or a 24-month track to actually accumulate your accomplishment and document it appropriately. So that is like the time frame. That is not the time frame suggested by USCIS or anything. That is the time frame based off of the work that TSC Global has done and the evidences and the results that she has seen that would actually help you build up like your profile or what is expected of you before you submit your petition. And then does being a peer reviewer serve as being a judge of others' work? It does. If you actually do check the EB-1A requirement, it's actually written there. Being a peer reviewer is actually there. So that depends on what kind of peer review that you have done and if that peer review is in your own line of work. Now, all of these things are going to be covered in the build-up track, working with TSC Global. And if you have any more questions, please send an email to TSC Global. I will be putting the email address again in the chat. The recording will be made available to you by Monday or Tuesday. If you registered for the webinar, you would be getting the recording in the email that you used to register for the webinar. And then Dr. Joy said, do your publication need to have citations? Yes, it does, in my opinion, and I believe in Fisayo's opinion too, because if nobody is citing your work, then how are you really extraordinary? Then how are people making reference to your work? Then how is your work really that sustained international or local acclaimed work? If nobody actually is referencing your work and your work is actually not pushing or moving the needle on impact somewhere else. So I will leave the last, I think we're already over time. I know we started about 5 minutes late. We'll be finishing in the next couple of minutes. I'm going to leave the last few minutes for Fisayo to kind of round up and maybe reiterate a few things that she has said. If you have any questions, please just send us an email and we'll be responding. So Fisayo, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. So one thing I want to say is that it always looks overwhelming, for many people because they don't know where to start. I think the ideal next first step is getting a consultation, understanding what your profile is right now, the gaps that you have in your profile, because if you don't identify the gaps that you have in your profile, you don't know what you are building for, right? Having a proper understanding of what the 10 criteria are, and you can find that on the USCIS, website, having a proper understanding of that, to know where you should be positioning yourself, understanding what your field of extraordinary ability is, because there's so many people also who have had different career pivots. So you've worked in consulting, you became a tech leader, you ventured into entrepreneurship, there's so many things that you have done, and then you're trying to find, okay, where is the sweet spot? How can I say that? How can I say this is my area of extraordinary ability, especially because I've done so many things, over the course of my career. So getting a consultation, will be the ideal next step, and then understanding the criteria extensively. But this is no walk in the park, but it's possible, and it has been made possible for a lot of people who didn't even think that they qualified, right? So you're taking the next or the best step, right? A good step forward by actually joining this webinar to learn more and, understand what it entails, but take another step forward to actually participate, to enroll in the program, to get a one-on-one consultation, and then to start doing the work. I wish you the very best, and I hope to see you sometime soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fisayo, for the session. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be sending you the recording in the coming week. And if you have any questions, just send an email and we will be responding. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.